And welcome back, everyone, to Pokemon Team Creation Series. This one comes to us from Xenomon Official, who asked the question, ironically, since we had Joey's What If, what is Joey Wheeler's Pokemon team? Joey Wheeler, the best friend sidekick and pretty good duelist of the original Yu-Gi-Oh series. And hey, look, he's a fan favorite. Everyone loves him. So let's talk Joey here. Let's get the very obvious one out of the way before we get into some of the ones that you have to think on for a little bit. Red Eyes Black Dragon is the signature monster of Joey. His ace. He won it off of Rex Raptor and has had it ever since. Well, he didn't have it through Battle City, but that's because he told Yugi keep it. But yeah, Red Eyes Black Dragon. So what is a Red Eyes Black Dragon in Pokemon? Well, we do in fact have a Red Eyes Black Dragon in Zekrom, and yeah, you look at those eyes; those are red eyes, right? And technically, they're blue with a red. Was it Sladia? The pupil is, well, technically it's a pupil in the bigger white part of the eye, which is red, but still it's a Red Eyes Black Dragon. And yeah, look, I wish that this was the Dragon Fire type between the two of them. Reshiram is the Dragon Fire type, obviously. And Zekrom is the Dragon Electric type, because otherwise this would be a perfect fit. It is a Red Eyes Black Dragon. It's a legendary dragon, just as Red Eyes is. It's also the dragon that represents ideals versus truth, which actually would fit Joey pretty well, as he is the idealist. He is not the idealist, but he's the guy who doesn't look at the reality and tries to defy it a lot of time through ideals. So this would actually make a lot of sense. This would obviously be his ace monster on the team, ace Pokemon on the team, so forth and so on. Now the rest of the team. So the rest of the team is mostly composed of cards that Joey has. Well, half the team is. There is a reason for half the team being composed of his cards and the other half not. Let's look at the couple of cards I used. One is original ace, Flame Swordsman. There is only one Flame Swordsman in Pokemon right now. That is Ceruledge. Ceruledge is literally a Flame Swordsman. So, that made 100% sense. Beyond that, though, there's also his other ace dragon he had for the longest time, the Claw of Hermos. That one proved a bit trickier, because when I think about the dragons, the legendary dragons, I try to think of a Pokemon that can work that is either aesthetically appealing or a Pokemon that can work that can do something akin to what the card effect does in their world. And unfortunately with Hermos, because he fuses with monsters to create new equipment spells, that doesn't really translate to Pokemon. So I went more with the aesthetic approach. From a Dragon Pokemon standpoint, the most aesthetically looking to Hermos would probably be Druddigon, in my opinion. Hermos is very more boxy and square between him, Timaeus, and Critias. Critias is probably the most pointy and sword-like, whereas Timaeus looks kind of like just like a standard dragon. This led me to choose Druddigon, as it is the most boxy-looking dragon we kind of have that still looks like a winged dragon. We definitely have some more boxy dragons out there. For example, Arctivac is actually kind of, Baxcalibur is actually kind of boxy looking to some degree. And Shelgon is another one that's boxy looking. But regardless, I think, and I say boxy because he's kind of square looking, Hermos. I don't have a picture available, obviously, but if you look up Hermos, you'll know what I'm talking about. So there's that. Last but not least, though, and this was the last one that got out of the team, I knew I wanted something that represent one other card in Joey's deck. But Joey's used so many cards. He's got Rocket Warrior, Time Wizard. Time Wizard was one I was really trying to think of. Could I use a Pokemon for Time Wizard? The only options that really exist, though, for time manipulation are Celebi and Dialga. Hey, I already have a legendary on the team. While I'm not opposed to putting more on a team, it's not about balance, it's about what fits the character. Neither of those really worked. Time Wizard basically ages things up to the point where they turn to dust. That's Time Wizard's whole deal. So, okay, Time Wizard wasn't going to work. Well, I could do Rocket Warrior. Is there anything? There really wasn't anything that represented Rocket Warrior. Gearfried, I definitely could do. the Iron Knight. In fact, technically, the one I chose could still be a Gear Freak representation. Ultimately, though, I decided to focus on one of the big ones Joey acquired later on in Battle City, and basically became kind of a staple of his deck, really. Jinzo, which in this case I used a representation as Bisharp. The idea was, how do you represent the negation / destruction of traps, destruction in the anime, of traps in a Pokemon? Well, what if you get something that completely negates or is immune to a type? Now, there aren't a lot of types that actually do that. There aren't a lot of types that are actually just straight immune to other types. There is, flying is immune to ground, electric is immune to, electric is not immune. Ground is immune to electric, flying is immune to ground, Ghost is immune to normal and fighting, normal is immune to ghost, steel is immune to poison, then dark is, fairy is immune to dragon, and then dark is immune to psychic. Now that's 7 out of the, I think it's like what, 18, 19, no, yeah, 18 types we got. That's a lot. That's not half of the group or half of the Pokemon's world, but that's still a lot of types that do have immunities. So out of those types, I was trying to think what exactly would be the most effective type to give an immunity to. And really, it comes down to, the most effective type combination or type that would represent trap negation. I chose Dark due to the fact that Psychic is a very powerful typing. Traps are very powerful cards, so you need something that kind of just shuts those types down, and in both instances. And I think Dark type works very well. Add on to the fact that poison is a very deceptive, tricky concept in general. Poison is used for like sneaking, poisoning people, killing people, or in this case, poisoning Pokemon in just the real world. And poison could be represented as like a poison trap in an RPG. So steel adds a double effective immunity onto that as well. It's also a very mechanical looking Pokemon. It does not look organic, and Jinzo is I believe he's a dark machine type. So that works well. Plus, you get the Gear Freak, the Iron Knight reference in there to just a little spice added on in there. So ultimately, yes, I went with Bisharp to represent Jinzo here, and a little bit of Gear Freak. But I got 2 other Mon on the team. Neither of these representing any card in Joey's deck. We have Scrappy on his team. Now, Scrappy, I put on the team because Joey, he's a bit of he's not quite a punk anymore. He's definitely not a punk anymore. But he started off kind of a punk. He started off as a bully. He started off as a punk kid who got into street brawls. He liked to fight, all that stuff. Still likes to throw down. He never backs down. That, I think we could say that Scrappy could have been his original starter in this world, where he started Scrappy. They were, kind of punks together, but ultimately he turned a new leaf, started, learning more, catching more, caught more Mon for his team, and ultimately ended with the team he's going to end up with. Although, technically speaking, we could actually say this was his starter, because one of the core principles of Joey's character is his relationship to his sister Serenity. And I wanted a Pokemon to represent the innocence of Serenity and how that affects Joey and how he views his sister and how she changes him for the better. But beyond that, the one other thing Joey is known for is being the luckiest SOB in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. The man runs a luck-based deck, for God's sake, and he's one of the best duelists in the world. That is just nuts. So I looked up, I'm like, okay, there's literally a ability called Super Luck. So I'm going to look up all the Pokemon that can learn that. And wouldn't you know it, there's a fairy type, Togetic, that can in fact learn that has the ability Super Luck attached to it. And Togetic is attracted to very innocent, good people, and gets sad when not surrounded by good people, very much like Serenity would be. So, technically speaking, you can make an argument that Togepi might have been Joey's original starter Pokemon. And he ultimately maybe used it to catch the Scrappy. And then he kind of started to go down the punk route for a while. Maybe he caught a Charcadet at one point, or even a Bisharp, but ultimately turned over to the New Leaf, and this led to him catching the legendary Pokemon Zekrom for his team. I don't know. I'm spitballing a lore right now, like a story for him right now. Either way, how strong is his team? This is the last question we always ask at the end of the video. And when I broke down the typings, I came to the very real conclusion that his team is actually very strong. There's only about a third of the team that has any shared weaknesses. Scrappy being dark and fighting means that it is still partially weak to fighting, and Bisharp is quad 4 weak to fighting. So fighting is a bit of a problem. Ground is also a little bit of a problem for Bisharp and for Ceruledge, given their fire type. But ultimately, the typing that runs through this team a little bit is Fairy. 4 out of the 6 mon on this team have a serious problem with Fairy types. Both Scrappy, Druddigon, and Zekrom all have no resistance at all. Bisharp still has some resistance thanks to the Steel type, but its Dark typing still makes it very susceptible to Dark type moves. Fairy type moves. So Fairy type is a problem for this team. But ultimately, this is just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you folks next time.